Hey guys, hope everyone's having a good day. So today I just want to do a technical analysis on Fedrick Dacres, or Dacres, or I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he's a Jamaican and is a 70-meter thrower. This is him throwing 66-30 off his Instagram, and yeah, overall fantastic technician. Does some quirky things in my opinion. That's not like that's not an insult or a compliment. Uh, that's just he just does some quirky things. Um, and he ever since he threw that 70 meters and got his world championship medal and all that, he has been injury ridden for the longest time. Back, knee, just a whole sorts of crazy stuff. Really unfortunate, but he's had some like 66-meter throws within those injury riddled years. I hope he's super healthy this year. It's been a while since he's been healthy completely. And when he was a 70-meter thrower and one of the best in the world. Uh, Back when Daniel Stahl was like at his very peak, he was right there along with him. So let's get into this. So, one, you can see he starts pretty offset. Oops, let me get a different line. He starts pretty offset. So, most people would line up like like where the sectors lines are. He is pretty, honestly, really offset. And I want you to notice, because this is a very common thing with basically all the Jamaican throwers. They are the definition of wide. If you want to look at how you should use length in the discus throw, look at basically any Jamaican thrower, because they all have like 8-foot wingspans and are like 6'6" plus and just absolute freaks of nature. They are just astounding individuals in terms of athletes, and obviously to throw 66 meters, you got to have a little bit of athleticism, I guess. But also, like, it's just the length that they have. It's just honestly insane. Like, the length they use. So let me play this just regular speed. Let me play that again. As you can see, everything he does is so wide. And I love that. That's fantastic for discus. So whenever I try and show athletes videos of like when I want them to get really wide, like reach out, have a wide sweep, I literally just show them a Jamaican thrower. Not even Dacres. Although I do show them Dacres, but I mean there are so many out there. And yeah, it's just astounding. Okay, but let's get into this. So I said he does a little quirky stuff. Let me go back. So winds. And when he winds, he really doesn't have a lot of weight on his left foot. He really goes onto his right foot. That can be a good and bad thing. Usually I don't like that just because it's super hard to get over your left. However, it can work as an inverse. If you have trouble getting over your left, feeling yourself go all the way on your right and then feeling yourself shifting the weight over your left is is something that people sometimes need. And he's not the only person that whines like this. Jurgen Schultz used to whine like this, the former world record holder before at Lekna, and a couple others. This is a very common whine that you see a lot of the time. And yeah, it could be a good and bad thing. It's I personally do not coach that unless the athlete needs to feel themselves actually shift their weight over their left, because I think it leads to inconsistencies getting over the left, and getting over the left out the back is probably number 2 most important thing in the entire throw, because if you don't get over your left, you can forget about your middle and you can forget about your front. You're just not going to throw far, or as far as you possibly can. But he does a great job shifting back over his left. And you also notice the other thing he does is he is so wide. Let me back up just a little. So his shoulders are like here, and I know this is at a weird angle, but if I can draw a line, just look at where his foot is compared to his armpit. Usually the rule is a little bit outside your armpit is or your shoulders is where you should have your feet. That's usually a general rule, a thumb. Some people like really wide, some people like it really short. He is extremely wide, and I know he's a very tall individual. This honestly reminds me a lot of like Robert Harding, because Robert Harding also started very wide as well. Um, in terms of this, and he also shifted not as much, but he shifted a little more weight onto his right. And yeah, just overall, insanely wide. Like when I tell you, like he's the definition of a wide thrower. Like there's nothing he does that's like compact. Everything is so wide, and I love it because in discus, length is everything. Just like in the hammer throw, length is everything. You gotta, and don't take that out of context. But length is. You need to have the discus as far away from you as possible. You need to have a wide sweep. All right, these are musts. And I know some people get away with having short sweeps, but the furthest that do it have wide sweeps. All right. So let's get away from that and let's go move on. Let's go to here. I want you to notice he has a bent left arm, and then he extends it. All right, so that can be for a couple reasons on the wind. One is just a feeling thing. Maybe he likes the feeling of bending the left arm and then extending it to feel length. Two, it could just be a relaxation thing. Or three, it's just some quirk that he does. And it doesn't really mean anything. Like it could just be something that he just has done naturally his entire career, and it's not like that big of a deal in terms of like a hindrance or anything. It's not a hindrance at all to his throw. So, him and his coach probably just don't care that he does that. It's just an interesting thing because you don't see a lot of people do that. Normally it's taught just keep your left arm long, just like your right arm. But some people do this. And as long as it doesn't stay bent, that's good. So you notice he does this. And I actually kind of like that because when you do that, I think it establishes you actually reaching out because you have to feel your arm extend out again. And I think that's a nice feeling type of thing that he does. So that's very nice. Let's see. Where is his pickup? His pickup, so he's at 90. He's offset, so he might be a little... No, he's at 90. 90 where he is. So, if he wasn't offset, it'd be there. But because he is, his 90 is there. So, he look at the distance between his knees. It's actually astounding. Oh, my God. Talk about separation out the back. Jesus. That is crazy. You have to be insanely flexible, first of all, to do that. And incredibly patient. So, really good patience. Going with the legs first, keeping the discus back behind the right hip. So, he does a fantastic job of that. And you notice when he does this, he goes out and around. This knee is a little more bent. His sweep knee or his right knee is a little more bent than I personally would like. But he extends it here, so it doesn't really matter. Some people do this. And it is just a natural thing. Your knee will bend a little. I don't know about that much. I don't know about that high. But as long as you get to here, it doesn't really matter. And especially because it's not lagging behind. So what normally would happen is, when I see this and like someone that's not that good or not as good as, Fedrick Dacres, which not many people are. But where was I? Sorry. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, that's right. So usually when people do this, it's because they're they're disconnected in their hips. So it causes them to just kind of kick. But he doesn't kick. This is a natural thing that he does. And it makes perfect sense within the parameters that he moves his hips in. Alright? So he does an excellent job of that. Because normally when you see people kick, they will lead with the knee, which means that his knee would be facing towards the sector instead of the groin, and the toe would be facing the sector instead of up. So that means he's dorsiflexed. So he still gets to the very good position of right here. Very nice. His left side, I wish he got his hip a little more over, but it's not like the biggest. Like, it's not bad. I wish it could just be a little more over. But then again, he is so wide. That's another reason why I don't like people starting that wide. It's very hard to shift that much over your left. But then again, when you're that wide, sometimes you don't need to. And that's why people start really wide. So it just depends. Obviously, Dacres is a physical specimen. He has a super long wingspan, super long limbs. So he has super long legs. So usually when you have super long legs, people tend to start really wide. Just because it's easier to move like that because of the hips, the position of the hips, and just how much more effort it takes to move longer limbs compared to short limbs. So people like to start wider because it decreases the amount of time you need to actually move the limbs. So you can move like a smaller person while still getting the benefits of having longer limbs. All right. So, but he gets the bare minimum armpit over the knee, over the foot. I just wish that hip wasn't behind him as much. But it's not like the end of the world because he still is over his left. So he still has weight over his left and he still gets very here. I don't like that he dips in like this and that his chest is down. That's something I don't like. But that's, I think, because he starts wide. So that's just the position of his hips. Yeah. So it's not that big of a deal because it's not like it stays down the entire time when he throws. And it's not like he collapses over his right leg in the middle, but we'll get into that here. So it does very nice there. By now, he did kind of over-rotate a little. He's a little bit mistimed. He should have been off his left foot, I think, by this time. And you'll see that he ends up on, good Lord, on this side of the sector. So he did over-rotate a little. Just a little bit. It's not terrible. But you see how his right foot doesn't land in the middle. It lands on this side. So he just spent a little too much time out the back. In my opinion, at least. I think he should have got off his left foot like there. Which would have made him, one, go down the middle. That's not down the middle. Down the middle. And then two, it would have made him a lot more quick getting down that left foot out the back. So he could have caught the discus deeper. But it's not the end of the world. Again, this is also not his best throw ever. So, yeah, there will be some more technical flaws compared to when he threw 70. But here has a little bit too much airtime in my opinion, but I think that's because he over-rotated out the back. In my opinion, he should be down by then, and the left foot should already be passing his right foot. But, again, that's not that bad. He does do a great job of holding his chest to the sector, allowing his sweep leg to go around to get his lower body ahead of his upper body, so it does a fantastic job of that. Another thing he does is he does actually bend his... Oh, I didn't mean to zoom in. He does bend in his left elbow. So he does do that. And I think that's to pull him in. Usually you see like really tall people and they tend to pull in their elbows because they don't want to travel too far across the ring. So and risk like just flying out. So you'll see this like Harding did it, Alekna did it, Lars Riedel did it, all like 6'7" plus. And I mean Alekna like Virgilius Alekna. And you see a whole bunch of really, really tall people like 6'7" plus do that. Just so they could sprint hard throughout the ring and still be in the middle. So and not travel too far across the ring. So he does a really good job of that. And then he extends it again, so it doesn't stay bent. So he just does that just to pull his center of mass back into himself, so he doesn't travel way too far across the ring. I don't like that it's down, but that's just me. Again, his position is going to look a little weird just because he did over-rotate out the back, which greatly impacts your front, but he does a nice recovery of it because he's an absolute beast, an experienced seasoned vet, so he knows how to recover from over-rotating out the back, and his technique is solid. And I keep saying this, whenever you see elite throwers, their knees are not squeezed together, they're around. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Not around. They're apart. I don't know why I just said around. Alright? They're apart. And look no better than this. Like, tell me that's squeezed. That's why, and I made several videos about this. Stop telling people to squeeze the knees, because you just lose the stretch in your hips. Alright? I know it's a very easy cue, and if people have trouble getting that left foot down, it's not because of that. It's because they're not sprinting out the back. If you don't sprint hard out the back, your left leg's not going to have the energy, and then you're going to force it by squeezing the knees, and then it's just a whole thing. But I've already had videos on that, so I'm not going to rant on that. But just I wanted to point out, his knees are apart, and that creates the stretch. So this position right here is, in my opinion, should mimic the stretch here. You want the stretch in the hips here because that gets you that stretch reflex, which makes you snappy. Right here, the knees are apart, gives you that stretch reflex to be snappy. And now look, left foot pointed that way, so his knees are apart and open, and has a great stretch throughout his hips. Catches the discus extremely far, really nice. And again, he's really mimicking the back, because out the back he bends his left arm and then extends, bends the left arm, then extends again. So again, mimics the back of the ring. Right here, really excellent ground contact. Really nice block. He has a super strong block, probably one of the best in the circuit right now. And just chases the discus out. Really fantastic. Now, I will say, his left foot landed here. So he did under-rotate a little bit, just because he did over-rotate, which caused he shouldn't be throwing down the middle. He should be throwing down over here, because he did over-rotate slightly. But, so he was a little bit off in terms of the direction of his release. But then again, it's a 66 meter 30 throw, so that's a really far throw. And it doesn't look like there's any wind either. So, again, let me see. Yeah, that net's not blowing at all. So, windless, pretty much, from what I can see. And let's go here. So, we left off. Yeah. Look at how long he is on this. Alright, really long. The knee and the foot. I would still like him. No, he should be a little bit off the ground by now. Just because the discus is going to be out of his hand in the next frame. If this will move. Come on. Of course. Yeah, discus out of his hand right there. So, does a fantastic job of that. And just look at that block. Look how long he stays on it. The discus is all the way out here when his left foot leaves the ground. Just insane block. Again, under-rotated a little just because he over-rotated. But yeah, honestly, a super solid throw. Does some quirky things, but that's just his technique, his throw. I'm not even saying you should copy those quirky things. I never recommend copying like unique things from throwers because there's a reason they do that. It's unique to them, and you're not them. All right, so find some unique quirks for you. I bet you guys already have them. I know I had very unique quirks. If you ever watch me throw a shot video and I have it in my neck, trying to find a comfortable hand position and almost get called for time fouls. I have actually been called for a time foul because of that. Uh, Very low light point in my career. That was really embarrassing. But so after that, I had to change that. But enough with my misfortunes when I was competing. This video is not about me. But yeah, I'm just pointing out what he's doing with all these quirks. Again, these are not things I'm saying to do. In fact, a lot of his quirks I'm saying not to do. It works well for him, but for a lot of people, especially people who are like beginner to intermediate, should not be doing these. They should be sticking to the basics of throwing, getting comfortable with those, and then you can find your quirks. And everyone has quirks when they throw. All right, but yeah. Other than that, this is not an underrated throwers video in the series, so I'm not gonna link like his personal best, height, weight, and notable accomplishments or whatever in the video description. This is just a straight up technical analysis, so you guys can find those out. He's a multiple time Olympian, a 70-meter thrower, a world championship medalist, and it's just been sad. He's just been riddled with injuries nonstop for years and years and years. I mean, he got that world championship medal back in I think either 2017 or 2015. I forget. He might have two now. I don't know. That's something you guys can figure out. But he hasn't been near the podium for quite some time, and I think that's really just due to injuries, because he's not that old at all, really. So yeah, I hope he's healthy this season. I hope he does well at Worlds. And yeah, other than that, hope you guys learned something. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Bye.